how's it going? You are here for Heavy Art Talk. Today, I am joined by two guests who have been on the show before. I have Tyler Pennington and Brendon Flynn, both killer illustrators. Had great conversations with them over like the 2 years of this channel. Brendon most recently, and Tyler's been on the show a couple of times. But today, what we're doing is we're furthering that new program of essentially what are the game changers in our art practice, or rather, the things that we've done over this journey that basically have helped us become better artists, and just kind of sharing those openly and having a really cool dialogue. But before we get down into it, I'm kind of curious from each of you guys, just what you've been listening to recently. So, Tyler, what's been playing, man?
Let's see. It's funny. I was literally driving in the car today, and I was like, I bet Lee will ask me this question. So I need to have some bands ready because I think we talked about that the last time I did an interview too. It's been kind of all over the place. I mean, I guess like maybe most recently, well, you had done that poster for the Deaf Heaven show. That album I had on not too long ago. Really good. I like that one a lot. I've also had, yeah, it's been kind of all over the place. Like a couple weeks ago, I was in like a Cannibal Corpse mood. I was kind of in like mid-career stuff with them. Like kind of where I jumped on whenever I first heard about them, like early twos, late '90s stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's been kind of all over the place. I've also been, let's see, there's a record label that I've been following them for a little bit, Iron Fortress, and
Oh
for
yeah,
some reason the algorithm's just been like keeping them in my like feed really often, and I'm really enjoying all the like random bands that they post that I've never heard about. So it's been a lot of like new death metal finds for me over there from those guys too. So but yeah, it's been kind of jumping around for me.
yeah. I've heard good things about Iron Fortress. Not only just the bands that they sign and put out, but I think their distro is pretty good too for just picking
Mhm.
up stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so far, most things that they've put out, I was, digging pretty hard. So, and a lot of it's like pretty new bands for me. So, yeah, nobody that I had my like eye on before. So that's always cool. I love doing that, like kind of diving in and finding like another 5 or 6 bands that I've never heard of that I can have on a little rotation for a couple weeks while I'm, getting into something else.
Totally. What
That's
about
all.
you, Brendan?
Uh, Kind of a mix of things. I was in the studio today doing some mixing with my engineer for a new project. But so for that, for like reference, I've been listening to a lot of like Swerve Driver and Hum and Failure, a lot of that '90s sort of post-hardcore sort of thing. But I got into the new Mesa record. That
Dude, that's so good.
It's really good, really cool. It's so funny because I had a moment where I think I found it because of a banger review of it, and it was called Doom. And I was like, I listened to it. I was like, this is. Do I not know genres of music? Like, cause it doesn't seem like Doom to me. It feels like one step further from Black Sabbath mixed with like The Cure and like Lucifer and I don't know, like some of those like more female driven like heavy metal bands. Because they're new to me, so it's a really cool find. Um, but I'm trying to think what else. I always listen to like I've been listening to Revocation a lot lately.
Nice.
Testament. Yeah.
All bands with great guitarists.
Yes, I'm a big guitar driven kind of band fan, but yeah. So
Funny little note about the revocation comment. We just had somebody come and look at like fixing a little thing at our house, a little like ceiling thing, and it was like him and another guy, and he showed up, and we were just chit chatting about whatever, and it's Richmond, so there's a good chance that somebody doing some kind of job also is in a band somewhere else on the side, and it happened to be like a former Revocation member. He was like,
Oh,
yeah, I've,
cool.
like played with them for like 12 years, but then decided to kind of step away to pursue like a my personal business right now that I'm doing. So yeah, it's funny. It happens all the time around here.
that's so cool. That's awesome.
Small world.
Also, I'm actually curious what for my comment earlier for the Messer record, for both of you, if you've listened to it, what would you categorize that music as? I'm just curious.
Oh, I have no idea what genre. It's amazing though. All the performances are so good. Vocals are amazing. It's I mean, you could call it kind of doom in the sense of like they maybe used to be a doom band, but now they're a little bit more. There's definitely some like kind of proggy stuff and
Yeah,
like really cool guitar playing, like jazz guitar. You know what
yeah.
I'm talking about? Some of those interludes, man. It's really
Well,
good.
and I mean the tempos are not that slow. Like I always think of like Sun O or like
Yeah.
Goat Snake or something, but like, yeah. Anyway, just
No,
curious.
it's just like really good, and I hope they like get bigger from it.
Dude, her voice is incredible.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah.
So, high recommendation on my end. I think people that like prog would also like this record quite a bit. I could see it kind of crossing over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. That gives me
Let's.
something to check out then.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, just kind of kicking it off. So we're each going to have 5 points, and by each I mean Tyler and Brendan. If you want to see my 5 points, check out the last episode with Chris Maxwell and I. But just to kick things off, this is an open discussion, and please, anybody who has any other ideas or how any of these points relate to your practice, put them in the comments. But before I just keep rambling on and on, Tyler, why don't you kick us off with just kind of the first point that you want to start with?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't have mine listed in necessarily like an order of, I guess, importance or anything, but yeah, one that yeah, I'll start with this one. One of mine was working through like perceived failures in your art. Um, like I kind of deal with this one probably a little bit more with painting rather than drawing, and I think it's just because painting is a little less familiar to me than like drawing is. I get to periods where, and usually it's like somewhere between like the starting point and the middle point of a painting, especially where, you know, heavy doubt sits in, like this thing looks like it's about to, you know, go off the rails and tank. And historically, well, maybe when I was at least younger, and like trying to fill up like sketchbooks and things like that, I used to like get rid of art that I didn't like pretty quick into it. If it didn't seem like it was going somewhere that I liked, I would get rid of it. And it took me a little bit to learn to just work through things that I felt like were failing on me. And then, yeah, I feel like that was a huge help. It's a hard thing to do, especially if you're not familiar with a certain medium you're trying to work in and get good at. Again, mine is painting right now. I've been trying to do more of it lately, even if I don't have like commission work that calls for it. Yeah, just to, I don't know, get good at it. And yeah, sometimes it goes through some ugly stages and some points where I'm like, I think this is a flop, but it's definitely helped me out pushing through that and you know, kind of challenging myself to see it through, even if I get to the end of it and it still feels, you know, maybe not where I want it to be. At least pushing through, I feel like you tend to learn more than if you were to just like, I quit. Like I'll just start on something new, you know. So yeah, that's something that I feel like I didn't do as a young artist, and then now I've definitely changed ways on that.
Yeah, I feel like I imagine too when you're doing your pen and ink work, there probably is a point where if you mess up, you probably have to start over again,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. A lot
And
less forgiving, I think, than painting.
you're right. Just because like some of those textures that you create, I mean, if you hatch something wrong or stipple something wrong, like maybe you can sort of move with it, but I imagine that being sort of limiting, you know, as far as like moving past it.
For
But
sure.
I feel like this was actually one of my points I want to bring up in this conversation. But I feel like a lot of young artists, myself included, even as a musician writing songs, same thing. It's like it's easy to get to spin your wheels and you always want to, you think that it's like you want to improve on it endlessly, but I feel like it's actually more helpful to just like finish it and then move on to the next piece, because
For sure.
there's a lot of people that just sort of like they'll sit on it for so long that like you're always going to improve. So it's like if a piece sits for a long time, if you have a piece that you just kind of keep putting aside and you don't finish it, like it'll never finish,
Right.
because
Right.
you're always trying to self improve all the time. So I think just being able and mastering that sort of, it's what's the comment? There's a quote. It's like I don't know. It's like never done. I forget how it goes.
Oh,
But
painting's never done; it's merely abandoned. Something like that.
maybe
Mhm.
it's along those lines. But I think it's really healthy to kind of like finish it and then just move on to the next one. And I think, and also too, I think if obviously if you do have a commission, you have a deadline, so you have to finish it. So I think
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
for young artists, I think it's just good to get into that habit of finishing it. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, I have so many like old sketchbooks that I've taken out over the years, stuff that I had like, maybe back in like middle school or high school, whatever. And there's so many like just little unfinished, like it'll be like half a head of some character started, and I can tell like I've flipped through several pages trying to restart that same head rather than just like, I don't know, just working through something. And yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, there's definitely times even still now where, I'll start something, get about halfway through, and then sometimes it can just be as easy as like taking a break and getting on Instagram and seeing something awesome. And I'm like, oh crap, like there's no way this painting or drawing is going to live up to that. So, like you start to see it as a failure before it has a chance to get finished and be anything. So yeah, definitely in the last, handful of years, I've been working a lot harder on just seeing projects through, whether that's, personal or whatever, before I kind of give up on them.
yeah,
It's a
I
great point, man.
think we probably all of us probably have had moments where we probably have a moment where we just exit out and just throw it in the trash. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ho- hopefully we can move. Those are seldom, but it does happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would be a first point you want to bring up, Brendan?
Well, bear with me. I'm going to start like kind of woo woo, a little big. Something I've been trying to do, I think, in my creative pursuits, but also in life in general, is sort of embracing both like micro and macro things. So like, and this might count as two. I don't know, but so the micro side of it is like embracing your style, you know, because I think we all look at other artists and wish we had certain, maybe techniques mastered or composition or whatever it might be. But sort of on the micro level, like really embracing what you do and like moving forward with that, and embracing your style. And I think, and that's my own path. I know some artists like make a career out of sort of like constantly evolving with the trends. But if you like really are sort of stubborn and want to stick with your style, I think like being able to kind of live in that, I think is healthy and cool. But on like the macro side of things, when I get down or depressed or whatever, like watching documentaries about space and like stuff that's like way bigger than you, and so like your problems seem irrelevant, and for me that is inspiring to like get past it. So it's like, if I make a mistake, if this interview goes bad, or whatever, it's like it'll get forgotten about after a period of time, whatever it might be, like, so I think those two sides of things, like, I've been trying to find sort of like the zen, I guess, for lack of a better word, in both those realms, and I think that's like helped me uh get better, I guess, in the direction I'm trying to go in, if that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of
No, it
sense.
does. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, both points are very relatable. Yeah, I think your first one about leaning into your style. Yeah, that's definitely a big one for me as well. I didn't have it on my list, but that's why I like about doing things like this, yeah, yeah, I definitely fight with that sometimes because yeah, there's times where like I'll go through periods where I feel like I'm on a roll with what I'm going for, art wise, and then there's times where again, just like with the last point that I made, sometimes it's easy just to even like look at other things that may typically inspire you, but then almost like let that become a negative and oh my stuff doesn't look like this, like I wish I was this or I wish I was that, and that's not what it's meant there for, but yeah, I mean it's easy, it's an easy place to go in your head. So yeah, I totally feel that first point. Something that I've definitely worked on as well, just trying to you know love what I do because it's me, right? Not because it's because I'm trying to be 10 different people at the same time, like stuff comes out of you the way it does, and it's like yeah, I think embracing that super important. And then yeah, I like the other point too. I literally was just tattooing somebody the other day, and they're a graphic designer, and we were both kind of going back and forth about that conversation of you know work life stresses, when it comes to art and things. And, he literally said that same thing. He was like, at the end of the day, though, we do art for a living and it's kind of cool. And like, it could be way worse, so yeah, I think there's definitely a good point there with, just like stepping back and looking at like, hey, like, we're doing this for a living, like we're here, small in the middle of all this, like big, whatever. And then, yeah, I don't know, kind of put it back into perspective for you. So, yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, good
what's
points. I
so
like those.
humbling too, is like you both are like highly skilled artists and illustrators. And it's like I think sometimes it's tempting to think that, you know, guys like you would never experience any periods of doubt. But it's like reassuring, I think, for anyone out there to know that like it kind of never fully goes away. You just get more comfortable with working through it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That happens for sure all the time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The doubt is always there. And I think too, I mean, we all probably have artists that we either are aware of currently or we stumble upon. And it could be from any era, and it's just like, damn, I wish, like I was in Philadelphia like a month ago and I was at the PMA at, and there was a Soroya on the wall. And it's just like, I will never like ever achieve that level of mastery of color or, mark making. And I mean, that's what I feel. I don't know if that's actually true, but whatever. But that's like, you have those moments where it's like, it's both inspiring, but also like soul crushing at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I get that way looking at like Frazetta, man.
Yeah.
Like every time,
yeah.
there's always something. He makes it look so easy. It's the artists that make it look very easy that I find that most that little sliver of doubt the most.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and just learning how quick he did some of those pieces too, I'm just like I could
Yeah.
never like whip up a cover for anything in a night and then it just like know that that cover is just going to live on, in everybody's head for years and years and years after it, like that's
Yeah.
just nuts. But I don't know, some people got it.
They
Yeah.
definitely do, man. What would be a good fourth point for you, Tyler?
Let's see, another point. Yeah, I put down drawing what I love and not what I think other people will love.
Mm.
Um, I think that one was tricky at one point for me in like my art career, journey. So before I got into doing this kind of thing, like you guys, so I've been a tattooer for 14 years. I'd started that like right out. kind of right outside of high school, within like 2 years of graduating high school. Before I got into tattooing as a career, uh, what I wanted to do was this kind of thing, doing work for like bands or skate companies or anything I was into as a teenager. Like that was the dream. And, tattooing happened and I'm glad it did. And I love it for that. There was a point in time, like kind of midway through my tattoo career where I started to want to branch out again, but I just had no clue like what I wanted to do outside of tattoo art because that's just what I was familiar with up to that point. I'd kind of put working on like horror type stuff aside to learn how to tattoo efficiently. And like after 5 or 6 years of doing that, you kind of like, oh, well, all I do is eat, sleep, and breathe tattooing. Like, what do I want to draw outside of that? What's me, and what are people going to connect to? And it was hard. I went through like a few different like periods of just trying to find, I don't know, like what I wanted to do, but I know at some points I was really concerned with like you know, what will people find interesting from me if I did it. So like there was a period of time where I was doing a whole lot of more like fine art type stuff. Like I was trying to work with like oil painting, and I was doing a lot of like graphite drawings of like nudes and very like pleasant looking things, which I'd never drawn really in my life before then. But it was something I was like, oh, maybe I can do this stuff, get into galleries, get noticed that way. And I did that for a few years, and I don't regret doing it. But I think doing that and kind of going nowhere with it really you know, sh- showed me once I switched and started doing this stuff, which was, pretty much what I had been into my whole like young adult life, yeah, when I started to go back and sort of draw things for me, kind of pleasing that inner child, that I feel like that's when people like immediately connected to it, and it was kind of like a surprise at how fast and well things took off once I started this, Instagram page that you guys know me from now. Um, and yeah, like that stuff is me. That's what I drew as a kid. That's what I liked as a teenager. That's what I wanted to draw before I got into tattooing and put aside. And then when I went back to it and just decided I'm going to do what I love, then people really, gravitated towards it. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's for me that was important, and hopefully that's something that helps somebody else out. Like I don't know if you guys have ever talked to other people maybe like starting out in like their art careers and stuff, but I know that it seems like almost every time that I talk to somebody that wants to make a living in art, they kind of have the same issues going on where they're like, yeah, I want to draw, but all I seem to get stuck getting is like, portraits or animal portraits or things like that, and it's always like the same types of things. And I don't know. I feel like for me, it was just like, you know what, I'm just going to draw what I want to draw. And if work comes from that, cool. If not, at least I'm still happy doing that. Um, and I also get that I have like the perk of, being a tattooer at the end of the day. So I'm not having to rely on, commission work to pay my bills. So there is that for me. But at the same time, I still probably wouldn't just take anything at this point, like I definitely want to draw what makes me happy. So, and I think that's just where you shine the best, right? Like you can draw anything all day long that you want, but if you don't care about it, then you're never going to put 100% of yourself into it. So, yeah, that one's a big one for me.
Great points.
I have so many tangents from what you just said. I want to take this on, but like selfishly, before I dive into one of them, like Tyler, do you use reference for your figures or for your anatomy or anything?
Yeah, actually a lot of if it's anatomy, God, I got like some really dumb pictures of like me modeling for stuff. And yeah, I always like keep an eye out for like books and stuff on like like figure reference and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I was a little bit, and that's something that maybe down the road I'll get more comfortable with in terms of just like kind of freestyling a figure and just not really caring too much about like how correct proportions are or whatever. But at this point in time, I almost always use reference if I'm like, trying to work with like a face or a body or a pose or something. So
Your stuff looks pretty comfy. No matter how you get to that, it looks very natural and effortless. So
yeah, well, thanks.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
for sure. Yeah, man. I think I'm trying. I guess what one point, I guess for me, I think it's actually almost it's along the lines of what you're saying, but I think it's really good to dive into what you know and what you appreciate. But I think there also is um, a lot you can glean from, doing still life studies or figure drawings, or even just like taking like a Nat Geo and drawing like a portrait from that. Like, that I think that's something I do if I have some time, if I'm killing time at like an airport, and I'll just like start sketching like a face or something. And I think I like that. It's not exactly what I would want to draw per se, but it's something that's like an exercise, that's cool to kind of like add to the bank of knowledge. And I think for me, that's what has strengthened me as a draftsman, I guess, is like just practicing some of those more inane sort of things. I remember watching. You ever watch the Crumb documentary? Just Crumb, the
I
Robert.
haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
I haven't either.
it's awesome. I recommend it. But like Robert Crumb, he talks about that exact thing of just drawing like inane objects, like just like telephone poles, and just to kind of like you never know when you'll use them, or like how to like create just like a scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that to be like in your pursuit of your own style and like your own direction. I find that just those small exercises can actually go a long way. So, but yeah, I guess that to my earlier point about the micro of like just Tyler, I think what you were saying is sort of exactly that, like really diving into like what you enjoy doing, because if you don't enjoy doing it, then no one will enjoy looking at it probably.
For sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it reminded me too when we were talking the first time, Brendan, how you had that college professor and you were doing the thing with the Three Stooges, and then he saw the monster and he's like, no, do that. It's
Right.
like it kind of reminded me of that as well. And then when you're talking, Tyler, about like, pet portraits, man, 4 or 5 years ago, in terms of the thing that I got paid for, it was pet portraits. I did a
Oh
shit ton
yeah.
of them.
Yeah. Yep.
And frankly, I still enjoy them, but it's not what I want to be known for. But I just love animals, so
Oh, for
I don't
sure.
mind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some people that probably really do enjoy that kind of thing. That was just
Yeah.
something that gets brought up in a lot of conversations that I've had with people that are trying to figure out how to make a living doing art, but that seems to be like what they only get to do, and they want to
Right.
do like their stuff and other styles and things like that. So yeah, it was more so for just to make a point
Oh,
rather
I
than
found it
like,
very
hey,
relatable.
don't draw pets. But yeah, because
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I mean pets are cute, so I've definitely done my share as well. But yeah, no, Brendan, that's a good point too, though. And I think that I feel that too, like kind of going back into my experience with like taking a few years and like studying figures and doing more like pencil drawings and kind of focusing on like how light works with form, all that stuff. Like I don't regret doing that at all, even if it wasn't necessarily where I feel like I should have went, art wise. I'm glad I switched things up and went back to what does make me happy in terms of my art. But yeah. I mean, there's times where like I'll pull the figure drawing stuff out, and like tattoos or drawing and stuff, and I'm like, cool. I'm glad I at least did that and learned something from it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's totally worth stepping outside of the comfort zone every now and then, being a little experimental. Because yeah, I feel like you also learn plenty there as well. But
I
yeah.
think like within your work, what I like admire about it a lot is like just your way of creating form with line, but also like the light. Like I'm never confused as to where it's lit from, like the light source. Like, and I feel like doing those exercises, even if you're doing master studies or whatever. I mean, I feel like that's how you get informed by that. I mean, informed by that kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm blown away by your ability to do, and I don't know if that's an innate skill that a lot of people can take by just like doing their own thing. I feel like it kind of comes from experience, and drawing a lot of different things and like making mistakes and,
Sure.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Oh,
Oh
totally.
yeah.
yeah.
How about your next point, Brendan?
I find that having the one thing that I missed about school was having a community of people around you that are doing a similar thing and that have similar struggles. And I think, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of creative people around me. And it's in different areas of study. Could be, visual arts or music or design or fabric making or whatever. But I think it's really good to have people that understand the creative process, and that know that it's a true struggle. It's not just like some hobby you're doing in your pastime. It's like, and I feel like, but just having other minds that you can juggle ideas with and have maybe critique sessions or just discussions about creative pursuits. I think that's really important to have. If you are able to, it makes it a less lonely struggle if you can. And I found that to be very, very helpful. And I think too, I think the opposite is true too. I think sometimes if you're struggling with something, or if you're showing somebody like a somewhat finished piece and they pick out something that you didn't really notice, but they found it to be kind of awkward, and they can't really put a term to it or a word or describe why, but like it doesn't hit them right. Like that's probably your audience. So it's like, it's good to like have that feedback, you know? But I think back to my original point, I feel like it is helpful to have like, you, you know, um, a local art community to kind of like lean into, and to also to participate in that community, whether it's going to like local gallery shows or like, obviously music shows or whatever. Like, yeah, that's been a very like priceless resource, you know. So
Yeah, I love that one. I have connecting with the community as well on my list. Um, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the like favorite things about um, yeah, like being a tattooer or just an artist in general. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to work around like a community of artists, for a long time, like through my 20s and now halfway through my 30s. Yeah. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Like, there's plenty of times where, I'm here at home, drawing a lot by myself. Um, yeah. And I mean, it just makes it so much more enjoyable when you can like take some of that alone time and like break it up with times where like I go to the shop, or like even just getting on Instagram or doing interviews like this, with you guys. Yeah, just kind of like connecting back in with that community. It is nice, like you said, knowing that people have some of the same struggles and can relate, a lot more than somebody that doesn't do art and probably doesn't get it, or maybe, sees it as like, oh, that's a nice hobby that you have.
yeah, right.
um, I was trying to explain it to somebody the other day that, I was meeting new for the first time, and they were like, what do you like to do outside of art?" And I was like, honestly, that's like, it's like a full blown obsession. Like that's all I do. So I was like, I just lean into that. I just hang with my people. Like do art, and it's great. Like that's been one of my favorite things about like kind of doing this illustration Instagram and these interviews, or like I don't know, like we're all connected in a very cool way, and I love that. I think that's been one of my favorite things within the last few years, especially because I didn't know it would be that way once I kind of like got out of outside of tattooing and just kind of like tried to do a more like personal pursuit into this like illustration, like freelance world. I was like, I'll just do it for fun. And then it just kind of turned into a really cool thing. So, and I think a lot of that is the community that I've been able to connect with on here. So yeah, I love that one. That one's a big one for me too.
That's awesome.
I think too, it's like just the fact that for the most part, everyone I've ever met in this illustration scene of working in the music industry, just by and large, like everyone's really supportive and humble. And I think it's important for the most part for everyone to work together towards that collective cause of just like the arts being valued, especially in like today's time. So I think it's really cool to see that most people are very much like in support of just making sure that this art form of like illustration, it could be digital or traditional, is preserved and placed with the right level of importance. Because to me, it's like music's half of it, art's the other half, and that's what makes to me being excited about metal music or any other genre.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's like we all kind of like are rallying towards that same goal of just making sure that it's not forgotten in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. I mean, everybody that I feel like we all kind of communicate with, which is, similar people. Yeah. I mean, everybody like absolutely loves it, like I love that I can get on Instagram, and even with all the other like negative shit that can be on there, like it is just nice to, like see artist after artist, show up on there. The same, people that I know, they seem to know. Everybody's like jumping into, kind of praise it and build each other up, and like that's cool stuff. Like you don't get that a whole lot in other places in the world. So it is nice that we have that here, and yeah, that's been a big thing for me. I think definitely in the last like few years of trying this illustration thing. Yeah, I love it.
That's
I
awesome.
love what you're saying. Trying this illustration thing, you're fucking killing it, man.
Trying
this illustration thing.
Well,
oh my god,
what
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next point, Tyler? I know community was like a shared one, but what else are you thinking?
Yeah. Let's see. What have I not said yet? Okay. Yeah, I think this point, probably more so than anything. I guess if this one was like, if we were doing it in place of importance, I think this one's like kind of right up there near the top for me, and that's there's no substitute for hard work. I feel like any artist can have whatever talent they might naturally have, but if you're not like you know head down grinding, like somebody can easily catch up and surpass you. And I know it's not like a competition thing, so I don't mean it to go that way, but I don't know, I've like that's one thing that over the years I've worked with people that work their ass off when it comes to art and getting better, and then I've also worked with people that were very talented and kind of coasted, and that always kind of bugged me. It's like, you're wasting it. Like, what are you doing? So yeah, that one for me. I mean, like I said at the other point, like, art's a pretty full blown obsession at this point, and it's hard to like turn it off and think of other things, or even want to think of many other things outside of like what I'm working on or what I'm going to be working on next. And I don't know. There's even sometimes, and like, thank God I got a wife that's very understanding of this. But I mean, sometimes I can get aggravated if I just take like a day or two off of doing art and don't do anything creative. Like sometimes even that like will like have me feeling like wound up a bit. Like
I'll
I
be
just
grumpy
like
as
to be
shit.
working. Yeah. I just like to be working. I love staying busy, even if it's for fun, not making money. I just like to draw and paint, and I feel like that above pretty much any other thing is the only reason I'm where I'm at and where I'll get to where I want to go, is just working hard. So, that I have a daughter who likes to, draw and doodle at times. And, like she'll kind of ask questions about stuff like that, like how do you draw this, or like how are you good at drawing this kind of thing, or how come every time I ask you to draw something, you know how to draw it? I'm like, dude, you see me in here, like I'm at the table every single day, probably too much, like drawing all the time, like it's nonstop, it never stops. So, that's not to say don't break away and like give yourself a breather if you need it, like don't burn out, if you can help it. But yeah, I mean, the point is just work hard, like there's not really a shortcut. So just work.
Yeah. I think to add on to that concept, I think for me, taking jobs that may make you feel uncomfortable and that will challenge you and you don't think that you could really accomplish it, but obviously, like, I think sometimes, obviously, if you have a certain style and you have a portfolio of work, you kind of want to keep making that kind of work, so you keep getting that work. But sometimes having jobs that challenge you, I think, don't dismiss them. Maybe take them on. And I think that struggle, that path, will like actually benefit you in the long run, even if it is like torturous and you won't take that kind of job again. That actually is very informative. And to the pet portraits thing, I remember a couple of years ago, I got COVID and I had to step away from my full-time job. And so I took on I just offered up like some affordable portraits for people. It was around like the holiday time. And so I was hoping that like the stuff I put out for the reference was like some stuff like Edgar Allan Poe or like Jeff Buckley, stuff that I wanted to draw. And of course it was like just kid portraits. So I drew a lot of babies. And dude,
Babies are hard.
that is the toughest subject
Yeah.
matter to,
Yeah.
doing animals, like, people, we don't recognize maybe if something's off with a dog's face, but if it's your kid, they see that real quick. And also when you have,
Yeah.
a face that doesn't have like it's all just fat and bone, like there's no markers, like you really have to like capture the likeness of that kid. We've all seen those like terrible tattoos of kids, so like
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's a big reason why I don't try uh to get any like portrait, business when it comes to tattoos. Like I don't want to I don't want to like screw that up even a little bit, and somebody, just has to look at it, and just think like, wow, that really doesn't kind of look like my, family member or my baby. But also
yeah.
too, like when it comes to like getting jobs like that, one thing I've noticed in the past is you always seem to get like photo reference that a family member will send you, and it's always like the most like washed out, lighting to where there's no shadow, no form, no nothing, it's just a flat white or whatever face, and you're just like, how do I make this even look like dimensional? There's just like a straight on
Dude,
light,
it's
so that flash.
it's just Charlie Brown. It's just like eyes, nose, and mouth floating in an orb, like,
Yeah.
so,
Ugh.
but I found that if you put that in Photoshop and you mess the levels, you can get some of those features to come back out, but
Okay. Yeah.
rarely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but that whole project definitely, like, it was a learning experience. I definitely learned I need to charge more for those projects. I also learned, to your point, like what reference to ask for. But also it was just like a drawing exercise too, So
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Like,
It might be out. Well, I guess maybe this weekend. So like by the time this is put out, the board
Yeah.
will be out. But I just recently did a skateboard, and you were talking about taking on some jobs where like you're kind of not sure if it's for you, but you want the challenge for it. That one was one of those two. Yeah, it was kind of like a board that was supposed to be like somewhat psychedelic, kind of leaning towards that fun like stoned ape theory of evolution. And when it got pitched to me, I was like, oh yeah, like I should do that. Like that's so like not what I just draw at any given time. And yeah, that one was like one of those that like started off fun. I was like, yeah, this looks cool. I got like the line drawing and the inks done, and then by the time I was like halfway through the color, I was like, good God, I don't know. Why did I say yes to the, like I had like some panic moments in there where I was like, there's no way I can put this out. Like, this isn't me. But yeah, I like worked through it, finished it. They loved it. I've seen the boards, and they look cool. And I was like, all right, that's good. I'm glad I did it, like just chill. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely, that was one of them that I was like, you know what, I don't normally ever draw this, but why not try something new? And yeah, it had me scared for a second, but I did it.
That's
So,
awesome. Hey, good for you. It's funny to go the complete opposite direction to my previous point, but I think too also knowing when to say no is also important,
mhm.
because I
Yeah.
remember like so I got a band reached out to do a shirt design, and they wanted me to do like caricatures of them, and like in a more elaborate scene, and I was just like, with the budget and the timeline, I was like, dude, this is not my forte, and like I can't guarantee you like that I can nail those portraits in the style that you want in the time. I was like, but I have this idea instead. Like this is like I know I can deliver this to you in like the timeline and to fit in your budget. So luckily, like they were understanding. But like I was ready to pass off that design to someone else because I just knew I couldn't give them what they wanted. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like with stuff like that, timing's a big thing too. Like if there's ample time to like work through what you're probably knowing that you're going to have problems and hangups with, then I think that's like a little different. But yeah, I mean, if there's a tight deadline and you're doing something like quite outside your comfort zone, yeah, it's probably a smart thing to just be like, yeah, maybe not this time. But you know,
Yeah.
yeah, if there's plenty of time, why not take a crack at it and try it out. But yeah, I would do the same thing if it seemed off and I had no time to even kind of think about any of it, yeah, I would probably say no.
Yeah.
I think
So
so.
yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. So much of it too is like I'm fine taking a risk and trying a subject matter that I haven't done before or that like is a little left field if I feel like I really like the client. Like so
Oh
much of it
yeah.
is the person on the other end of the email or whatever. Like I would so much rather work with somebody who's like really cool, understanding, good communicator on a subject matter that is less of my interest than somebody like it's like, all right, dude, do some cool, like kind of morbid psychedelic shit, which is like my thing. But then
Hmm.
they end up being just like way too casual and just like not the right vibe personality wise.
Yeah.
It that's like so important to me at this point.
Hmm.
It's
Oh
just the right fit personality wise.
yeah. I mean, I think sometimes it's hard. Like sometimes beggars can't be choosers, but like those are like the dream clients, right? Like, and especially the repeat ones that come back because maybe your communication is good, or they're hiring you because they know that your style fits what they're looking for. Like that's ideal, you know. Like I think we've all probably been in that place where we're the only artist that someone knows, or they assume we're the affordable option, or whatever the narrative might be. Like it kind of like it makes you have to deal and navigate some pretty like uncomfortable territory, you know, whether it be like communication or like taking on a project that you might not want to do, like, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it your turn, Brendan? I
I
think
don't.
you went last time with the hard work. That's what kicked it off. The hard work from you, Tyler. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
believe
yeah,
it's your
yeah. I
turn.
said work hard, and then yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I kind of piggybacked off of that with like taking jobs that are
Oh
difficult.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But
cool. Yeah, yeah.
I'll be happy to try to come up with something else. Um, I think we've covered so much ground. I think we've covered all my points I had just like in talking back and forth.
All right. Well, what questions do you have for Tyler or me or whatever? Like what things you just want to chat about?
I guess like what um I don't know. What do you find to be the most fulfilling in a project?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I mean, well, Lee had a good point. Yeah, a great client goes a long way. Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, I don't know. I like it when people definitely seem to have it locked in on like what I like to do. Like I love when I'm not. I think mostly I love when I'm not asked to do anything like way outside of what I like to do. Like when it's kind of locked into my specialties and people just kind of like don't try to backseat drive the thing the whole time. I'm kind of having like a little issue with that currently in a project actually. I actually really love the painting that I'm working on, but it's been since the beginning of it, like the communication has been kind of weird, right? Like I'm kind of dealing with, it kind of goes from like, well, we want to know what you think. And then when I say that, it tends to get like looked over and then I have to do what they think instead, like little things like they're like, what kind of color scheme do you think would be good here? And then I'll send them ideas of what I think. And then they send me something back and they're like, we want to go with this one. And it's not anything that I sent, like little things like that. It's like, I don't know, you reached out for a reason, right? Like you liked what I did. So before you asked, so, maybe let me take it and see what I can do without having to like nitpick everything, along the way. You know, like I said, I still love the painting and so far so good. It's just, yeah, there's always like little things that I have to keep changing along the way because it's requested instead of it just being like, oh yeah, it looks great. Keep on going, So
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes those dream ones are just like people tell you what they want. It's in your wheelhouse and they don't try to bother you in any way, like they trust you, and they kind of like let you know that they trust you. And then, yeah, I don't know. It'd be sweet if they were all like that, but
Yeah. I mean, when they're excited and you're excited, that's the feeling.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so yeah. Um, have you ever gotten projects that are? I'm trying to think, like where it starts out and let's do a band for instance, and like they just have nothing. They might just have like a song title or an or just maybe a lyric, and those are actually really fun if they're willing to like go with your vision. But to your point, it's like sometimes that can be just like this like non-existent dartboard with like endless darts. And
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, have you ever had that before?
Um, funny enough, I think pretty rarely actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I feel like most people that have reached out, and I haven't done like a ton of album covers or anything like that. I would say that's probably happened maybe more so on like shirts and things,
Yeah,
where people might give you just like a loose, song title, whatever, and just kind of see what I can do as far as like a shirt design direction. But I don't know. I think like thinking about it, I don't know if I've ever had that yet on an album cover. So we'll see. I'm sure it's probably coming sometime soon, sooner than later. But
that's
yeah, yeah. I think so far everybody that I've talked to has had like a fairly well. I don't even want to say clear direction, but like at least had like some ideas to kind of throw around beforehand, or like a working title and like kind of a theme for the album, that I can sort of try to make a visual representation of. So yeah, so far I haven't had to really deal with that too much, but
that's I'm glad to hear it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I face that more honestly if I get asked to do logo design.
Mm,
Oh yeah, so open ended.
I will rarely do a logo because it is sort of like that is the most ambiguous thing for a band. It's like, okay, well, like send me your music. What's the vibe you're going for? And then like, do you have any favorite logos to use as reference or like your direction? And it's I would say 90% of the time there's no feedback or it's like very muddled.
yeah.
Um, and that is the most difficult to do. in
Yeah,
my
I'd imagine so. I mean, trying to represent sound through just like letter style, like even just saying it, it sounds really like hard to, even figure out. Like people that do like, really great metal logos or, they're a different kind of animal that I haven't figured that one out yet. I've tried to draw things here and there for like maybe some like self, like promotion stickers, things like that, where I've tried to like think, oh, maybe I'll try to do it in like a cool metal font, whatever. It is super hard. Like even just trying to figure out what I would want, like I'm not even working with anybody else's like feedback or anything, and it's still hard to figure out how I want to represent me through like a lettering style and then having to do that with somebody else, like
I
yeah.
feel like metal, for me anyway, is uh a little, I don't want to say easier, but I guess it is, like, because it tends to be more illustrative, like as far as like what you're allowed to do in a logo design.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, especially when it gets into like the more niche metal genres, like it's more about like what it looks like than if you can read it. It's more of like a recognizable shape or a.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to like other genres of like rock and like radio friendly kind of stuff, like that's when I get a little lost in the nuance of like font choice or like what people want to see when it comes to like a legible logo. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what it gets hard for me.
Yeah.
So
I've
yeah.
actually been getting into like hand lettering
Oh,
stuff.
really?
Yeah, I'm doing one for an album cover right now, and luckily the covers with my best friend. He's releasing an album later this year, so like it's like the best project ever because it's kind of
Yeah.
like, hey, I want to do some psychedelic cowboy shit. And he's like, all right, hell yeah. So like I'm doing that, and I'm doing like this really cool like hand lettering, and I'm really enjoying it. But if it was a client that I didn't know and they didn't know what they wanted, it would be a nightmare.
Sure.
So I totally relate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Um, oh,
I,
go
I
ahead, Brent.
I apologize. To add on to that, do you guys usually do your own typography for your projects?
No, not really.
Lucky
Yeah,
duck.
usually if I'm doing anything like I don't have, well, I'll say that up front, I don't really have a whole lot of like digital skills or background in that too. So if I was doing anything, it might even almost be easier if I just drew it by hand rather than like tried to figure it out digitally. But yeah, usually if I'm doing like anything for a shirt or whatever, I just tell the people up front, I'm like, look, I don't know how to put logos on things, so you're just gonna have to do it. Like, make sure you either know how to do it or you have a friend somewhere that can, drop that on. I mean, usually, like, what most shirt printing companies probably know how to like pop a logo on a shirt. So I don't sweat it too much. But yeah, I don't know how to do that outside of like, yeah, if I were to draw it by hand, maybe. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I either do hand drawn or my wife's a graphic designer, so I partner
Oh,
up with her.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah, I know. I'm lucky. She helps me out. All these thumbnails you see, that's her.
Yeah. Oh, well, great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're a team.
I'm
Dang, that's awesome.
because I think so, like half of the work that I do is like album layouts and like
Ooh,
so,
yeah.
but like finding typography that works for things and like knowing loosely the rules of like how many fonts you should probably use. Like obviously keep it minimal, but like just like finding the right font for the mood, you know,
Mhm.
while keeping it legible and clean. And I don't know, it's fun. It's fun, but it's like it's the least fun of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I before I started tattooing, I did like a brief like community college run, and I was going for graphic design, and I remember typography class being quite hard. And then I mean, I kind of dropped out anyway. So I never even learned any of those programs like well at all. Looking back, I wish I would have, but it was just weird time in life. I was also young and pretty stubborn, like I was already like, nah, I don't want to do any of this stuff. Like, I want to draw, scary things or like skateboarding things or metal thing, like I just was not into trying to, figure out how to do lettering for like a wine bottle or a menu at a restaurant I'd never eat at, So, but yeah, like again, looking back, I wish I would have picked a few of those things up. It probably would have benefited me now that I've like gotten back into this thing. But yeah, so far, I mean, I haven't hit any like hard hangups yet. I just am pretty honest up front. I'm like, I don't know how to do that, so don't expect anything past the drawings.
No, kudos to you. That's awesome that you can do that. Hell yeah.
Oh, one thing before we went live, I'm just kind of leading a little bit, but like you mentioned that you're working on a lot of paintings right now, Tyler, and I figured since Brendon paints all the time, maybe we could kind of discuss that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
yeah. Currently, it's like some like 2 album covers. Yeah, I mean, both are like quite different. One's very kind of like Lovecraftian leaning in subject matter, pretty like textured and, organic and all that fun stuff that kind of comes with that imagery. And then the other one is like a front and back cover, and majority of it is a cityscape because it's for a thrash band. So it's like
really
two very
tight,
different.
yeah.
Like, yeah, oh God, I have never painted a city scene before this, and it might be a while before I like agree to take one on again. But I mean, I like where it's going, and I've sent them the front cover since I finished it, and they were like stoked about it. So that was at least a plus. But yeah, painting a city is hard work. Yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, I think, if you're going to agree to do that. But yeah, I mean, both are fun. Both have been challenging in their own way. But yeah, just trying to up my painting game lately. Yeah, acrylic or I've been trying like gouache here and there too. That was a thing that I didn't like ever touch before this year. So yeah, that it's been cool to experiment.
Do you do when you paint? Do you do like an under drawing, or do you do like a full pen drawing and then do paint on top of it? Like what's your process look like for that?
Yeah, I'll do an underdrawing and seal it, and then yeah, pretty much like I guess you probably also would with like an oil painting or something. Yeah, I'll do like an underdrawing and then kind of do like a little wash over top of it just to get rid of the white and rock and roll from there. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Have you thought about doing like a pen drawing with just washes?
No, actually, I
Like
have
watercolor
not.
washes?
You can do
Well,
acrylic.
so I've done
Acrylic?
acrylic painting. Yeah, actually, before like back in the day as a teen, I used to do a lot of like watercolor and like brush and ink type stuff, like pretty like Bernie Wrightson leaning stuff. I mean, he was just like such a big one for me in like my teen years. So there was a lot of stuff back then where I was doing a lot of like just brush and ink only kind of things. Pretty comic book looking, and yeah, a lot of it I would color with watercolor, and really enjoyed it. But I don't know why I got away from that so hard, but. I mean, even in tattooing, I used to do a lot of watercolor, like flash stuff, and I don't know, maybe that was kind of what did it. Maybe just stepping outside of tattooing, I was like, all right, what do I do that I just, am not doing all the time? And pen and ink was, only was kind of a big thing that I wanted to get back into that I really hadn't spent much time with. So, yeah, I think once I was kind of like trying to dip away from like tattoo art and flash and stuff, I just kind of like set watercolor aside and hadn't really picked it up since then. I mean, it's been, probably a good. Gosh, I don't remember the last time I used watercolor. I don't think it's been like 10 years, but it's probably getting close.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always like the look of it. Like I think like mixed media stuff is very like pleasing to look at, and I always kind of get a little jealous of people that can put, you know, two or three medium together and just like make it work like that, you know. I kind of get a little nervous about the idea sometimes, like of just putting color over like a pen drawing that I've spent a lot of time on. Because I'm like, what if I blow it?
Yeah, the stakes, man. The
Yeah,
I think,
yeah,
paper matters a lot too.
yeah.
It
yeah.
looked like Brendan was about to say something.
Well, I think you could also like scan it, print it out, and I mean, you can adhere it to like illustration board, and that way you
Okay,
could like as a practice, or even just use it as its own piece, and then that way you have like almost
mhm,
like two original or to sell them later on.
okay,
But like,
yeah,
you know, because there's ways that you can like a method that I use sometimes if I have an underdrawing that's like very complicated and I don't like, transfer it or redraw it, like I'll
hmm
print just like cheap Xerox paper, and then you
hmm
water even or just spray it with a spray bottle, let it kind of relax, put gesso on the back with a brush, and then take like an ink briar, like a roller, and then just like roll it out onto illustration board and let it dry. And then it's like glued down, just like any layer, like because like illustration board is like layers of paper. So another layer, and then it's archival, and you can paint right over top. Uh,
wild, yeah,
you know,
dang,
so
yeah. I'm gonna
if
have to
that was
start experimenting then.
yeah, if that the path that you want, I'm not. I don't want to tell you what to do it. I'm just curious. Your drawings are so fucking cool. I'd be curious what that looks like with like wash the color over it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
to that point, I'm actually curious about your painting technique. Like, do you find, especially with acrylic that dries so quickly, do you find yourself painting in similar ways to how you draw?
Um, let's see. Well, I guess a way that I do tend to paint a lot is I don't know if you're the same way. I do like to do a lot of like thin layers and like washes and kind of like glazing colors in and stuff like that. You know, so yeah, I mean sometimes I don't know, like yeah, acrylics is kind of weird, right? Like where it does dry fast, it is a really like tricky one to kind of like blend as easy as like an oil would, but I don't know. I tend to have like I think maybe less patience, so acrylic still works for me in that way. But yeah, yeah, I tend to paint like pretty thin, which is another thing that I had kind of gotten interested in over the years and just never really like took the time to get good at. I do enjoy like paintings that have like a texture to them, like they're painted like quite thick and like I think that just looks so cool. But I never really figured out how to do that. So yeah, like people that almost kind of you like I don't know. It looks like very like rough, almost like maybe done like in like a palette knife or something like that. I love like thick built up paint, but I don't know how to
Nikolai
do it
Fetchin or
myself.
something.
Yeah, yeah. I paint like pretty. You know, well, maybe I'll start out with like a strong like base layer of something. You know, whatever I'm painting. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just like mixing color and watering it down for me. You know, just like subtle changes and stuff as I go along, and just like layering it until it gets to where I need it to be. So, you know, there might be an easier way to get from like A to B on that than the way I do it, but that's just like what I've gotten comfortable with, I guess. So,
I paint the same way. I mean, Tyler, we did that trade. You see, like my paintings are so thin, like they're
yeah,
like um, and that's just I'm probably I would imagine that we probably paint a very similar technique.
yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, we may. Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, I don't know. Like painting thick is, you know, it's just one of those styles that is very appealing, but I have no clue how to do that. So,
I could be wrong about this, but if you look at like some of the realist painters, like John Singer Sargent, for instance, like or
mhm.
Sorolla or Ilya Repin, I feel like those guys like a lot of their paintings were like pretty meticulous. Like they drew they had a really good drawing, or just like painted in like a good structure, and a lot of those thick accents were kind of added at like the end. Like a lot of those
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just showing off.
And there's directional.
Yeah. Like thick highlights and things like that. Like I love when like a painting just has like a big meaty chunk of like white, just standing off the canvas in a highlight or something like that. Like I just think that's cool. But like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't got there yet with my stuff. Yeah, it's all like pretty thin washes.
Well, I want to see it when you experiment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that like I was saying earlier before we jumped on. Yeah, once I get through these commissions, I definitely want to take a break. So we can get through like selling the house, and I don't have to stress about deadlines of things. And yeah, I would love to like just try some things. That you talking about how to get like a copy of a drawing out on illustration board and stuff like that and painting over that. That's cool. I've never done that before. So yeah, I'll have to try that out. And then yeah, maybe even like I don't know. Do you like your paintings that I got from you? Yeah, I feel like we're pretty similar in that we tend to keep things like pretty tight, all the way through. Which I guess to your question before, yeah, I also paint how I draw, which is pretty tight and kind of meticulous, and not everything's got a place. Nothing's like too, you know, brushy or out of whack, and that's another thing that I've been kind of curious about trying is being a little bit looser of a painter because it's really hard for me to like break away from being tight just given that I've been a tattooer for so long. Like that is, I mean, clean designs is like what tattooing is basically. I mean, you don't have to, but most of us do that, and that's how we were taught. So I think that carried over into a lot of personal art, and yeah, it is very hard for me to not like keep everything very tight and neat. Even if it's a drawing of something gross, it's like the details, neat. So yeah, I would love to figure out a way to be more like brushy and loose, or yeah, like painting thick layers and stuff, kind of mixing that in. So yeah, who knows, but yeah, I would like to experiment more.
Awesome.
With the loose stuff, I mean, when I'm doing pen and ink, I'm pretty tight like you as well, but watercolor has taught me how to be loose and how to work within that and then kind of like
Hmm.
refine it. So I don't know if I'm not an acrylic painter, but I would find it probably difficult to experiment with being loose, maybe in that medium. Whereas if
Hmm.
you tried watercolor, you do some wet on wet washes, and then you kind of like invent off of whatever the water takes you. That
Oh
could be like
yeah,
a cool
yeah,
way to experiment. That's
for
what
sure.
if you
Yeah.
guys saw that latest painting I did with the woman and those Lovecraftian monsters around her. That's how
Hmm.
I did it. Is it's wet on wet, and then I shape it from there,
Cool.
Oh,
and
very
that's
cool.
helpful.
Yeah, almost kind of letting like the watercolor decide the
Oh
direction.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's super cool. Um, yeah. I mean, yeah, like I was saying, there's definitely stuff that I want to get into, and maybe watercolor is one of them too. I did like wash for that same reason. I felt like it almost like lends itself really well to just being a little more like maybe chunky is not the right word, but like a little more like you know, aware of the brush strokes and things like that in there. Like it was when I was using it and trying it out, like I noticed it was very hard to like blend smooth without just seeing where each color had kind of gotten dropped in. So I was like, I don't know, maybe this is like where I kind of, get a little loose and stop worrying about like if everything's like blended together super smooth. And yeah, gouache was super fun. That's another thing that I want to do more of. Even if I don't get like projects I can necessarily use it on, as far as commissions and stuff, like it was really fun painting the few things that I did with it. So, and yeah, it definitely like made me relax on, like worrying about the tightness of the end result. So,
That's awesome.
At
I've
gouache, it's go ahead.
never experimented with gouache. I've done watercolor, but I I don't like how it reactivates. I
mm,
like like how malleable acrylic can be because it just dries and then you can fix it.
yep, yeah,
We'll say you can do it like watercolor, but it is because it doesn't reactivate. You're kind of stuck with the marks that you put down initially, But once you build up the acrylic, as we probably all know, it is fixable,
Yeah.
Which, so.
Did you have any other points? We kind of lost track of the things, but if you had any written down, I'd love to keep talking for just a little bit more.
Actually, so I have one more that I don't think I've mentioned yet. And this one's like very specific to me and my situation, so it might not really like resonate with everybody. But for me, I think it's a big one for me, and I put being a dad made me a better artist. And I think that the biggest takeaway from that, like being a dad and, how that factored into my art career. One thing I just always wanted to be able to show my daughter was that, working hard and following dreams is super possible, and I wanted to make sure I like achieve that any way I could, even if she grows up and doesn't care a thing about art or doing it as a career, goes into something completely different. I don't know. I just grew up, maybe similar to you guys or anybody that might be watching it, where, yeah, a lot of people kind of expected you to have like a solid backup plan, when you start talking about, oh, I want to do art for a living, like sometimes people don't really take that too serious, or yeah, it just seems like it should just be a hobby outside of something serious. So yeah, I don't know. I think I mean, I always wanted to be like an artist anyway, like a working artist, but yeah, especially once I became a dad, I was like, yeah, there's if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to show my kid that like all the hard work I put into this like pays off, and it wasn't stupid for me to follow a dream like that. Um, yeah, I think that one is a big one for me. Like I love being a dad and being able to like have these things to kind of like, sort of share with her, whether she maybe cares right now or not, I think one day she'll grow up and think that it was cool, that I did the things that I got to do because of following a dream. So yeah, I think being a dad, having somebody else to kind of like work for besides just myself, like that was a big one for me. So yeah, maybe somebody out there can relate to that one in a way. So yeah.
That's awesome. Uh,
That's a really cool point. I think for some people, it's almost like if they're presented with that same scenario, for lack of a better word, they would actually do the opposite. Some people would find it a reason to give up on art and then
Sure. Yeah.
do so.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how you take it that direction, and I think that's also inspiring too. That like just because you have a kid doesn't mean that you can't pursue your dreams at the same time too. It's an
Oh
important
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and like I try to involve them as much as I can, in it. Like I try not to make like art and family life a very separate thing, and they're super cool about it, which is great too. Like I just draw around them all the time. I have an art room. I'm sitting in it right now, but I never do art in it. I'm always at the dining room table or drawing in the living room around them. People have definitely asked me before how in the world I draw in that kind of chaos and get anything done, but I don't know. Sometimes not having it is weird. I mean, I enjoy my alone time, but I still love drawing, around my family as well, just so they can be as involved as possible in it. And like I had a cool thing happen a few years ago. I had went to Denmark and Sweden. I was getting tattooed over in Sweden, and I took the family along, and we were killing some time in Copenhagen one day, and I went into Extremely Rotten, the record store over there I wanted to visit, and they happened to just have like a one of the Noxious Ruin issues there with the cassette tape that I had done the painting for, and Natalie noticed it, and she was like, wait a second, Dad, you did something that's in a whole nother country right now? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I guess I did. And she was like, that's so cool. Like, you're so famous, and she's just little, but it was just funny because I was like, yeah, that's the kind of thing that like is cool about, you know, doing what I do and, you know, also being a dad at the same time, you know, just like being able to say, hey, like I worked hard and something I did ended up in a totally different country. Or like when I get to do work for a band that's in another country, you know, like I don't know. I know she thinks that stuff is cool, whether she like talks about it much or not. And I don't know. That's the stuff I like to be able to share, you know, with her as a dad. And yeah, I don't know. You know, like I said, whether she cares enough to do art for a living or not, just hopefully my hard work and following, you know, my dream of being an artist will have shown her in some way to do the same, you know, for whatever she feels, you know, her calling is. So
That's awesome. I feel like I don't have any kids. I have kicked around the idea of maybe like teaching on some level, but for that kind of similar reason where it's like, so I bartend, and I feel like sometimes you talk to people, and the common thing that don't have creative pursuits is like, oh, I wish I could draw, I wish I could do this or that, and I feel like it's they they feel like they just like that part of their brain is just gone. Like they don't think they can access it again. And it's like, no, if you really want to do it, like just give it a try. Like just maybe like take an hour out of your morning or your evening and like use it to unwind and like explore it. You know, and I think it's such an important part of being a human being is to like to explore that part of you, whatever might be. And so I think it is important to kind of like pass that along whomever you can. Um, you know, and I think also too that hopefully create acceptance for people who actually do it as a profession too.
Yeah.
yeah, for
So
sure. You know, just like, you know, again, even if they grew up and went in a totally different direction, at least they enjoyed like art class while they were young. So, you know,
I think also learning how to problem solve, um, or even like learning how to like I mean even like learning cursive for that matter, or learning an instrument or learning how to draw. It's like I think for me, when I like zoom out on it, it's like learning how to fail over and over again and persevere past it, like
mm-hmm.
in those small moments. And I feel like it kind of like it challenges your brain in a different way that other things don't challenge you. And I
Yeah,
think like it creates patience. And I think it's just it's such a important universal skill that I think is sort of lost in like probably modern education. That might be a broad statement, but like that's kind of like my gut instinct. Um, and I feel like like I said, like script is such an important skill to master, even if you never use cursive as an adult. Like just going through that meditative practice, I think for a young mind is so important. But yeah,
I agree, man.
agree.
It's just learning how to learn. Sounds
yeah,
stupid, but it's like if you learn some art, it's just going to help you become more intelligent, well rounded in whatever pursuit you end up doing.
I think it's humbling, like learning how to fail. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so uh, yeah. Anyway,
Well, before we start to kind of wrap up, and I don't want to cut it short, but are there any other things you guys wanted to talk about?
it did have
Uh,
another point actually.
yeah,
Uh,
go for it.
yeah. So I think um, this is sort of the antithesis to what Tyler was saying earlier. Not, but like, because I agree that like working hard and like that's super important. But I think also if you're able to um, throughout your career, finding ways to like disconnect and like if you find yourself feeling burnt out or like feeling uninspired, I think taking time to actually like force yourself away from the work and replenish the well of and that could be diving into different art or going to a concert or you know taking a trip or hiking or having good conversation with friends, whatever it might be, to like replenish that well, like learning how to take time away to find that balance. I think I found to be very helpful. um and I think sometimes we probably all been there where we are so hyper focused and so like into the details of the piece that we lose focus of the whole, right? Like, and I think sometimes even just taking a step away to get a cup of coffee or something and coming back like, oh shit, like I didn't even see that. Like I didn't, I've been focusing so much on this one part of the piece that like I just like maybe you're in the wrong color scheme, or you're like the light is in the wrong place, or anything like you know especially if a deadline's tight and you're like trying to rush something and you mess up like the perspective or um whatever, any detail of the piece, um but yeah, I think finding that balance can be really really important for like mental health and for not getting burnt out.
For sure. I totally agree. I love working hard, but yeah, sometimes it's just not something that you can do 100% of the time, and it is nice to have a breakaway. I've been doing a lot more. I mean, as like simple as it sounds, like walking breaks through the day. Especially if it's like a day off that I have. I've been trying to get way more into just like being mindful about being active. So I'll start off my day walking before I even like get to a project, just so I've gotten up and like moved a bit, to kind of get myself going. And then yeah, usually I'll at least like try to get up and like go for a walk. At least if I'm going to be working like a few hours on something, yeah, every like hour, 2 hours, maybe stand up, like walk around a little bit, or like work a few hours and then like take an hour or two off and go, walk in the woods somewhere or something like that, or out in the neighborhood. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, knowing when to like break away so you're not just always stuck at your drawing table.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I got a question for you guys. So when you are working and you're starting to kind of hit that wall, like it's just like, it's like I'm done. I'm starting to feel like this looks like shit. When you do come back like 3 hours later or the next day, do you guys usually find that it's actually pretty good? Or do you still like, oh, this still sucks? Like what's more common for you guys?
Um, what I've been doing also, like when I take break, I take a lot of like in progress pictures of things just so I can take it away. Like I can leave it at the table, but I can also take it with me if I decide to go do something else. And I'll kind of like just take some time to just stare at things a little bit.
The
I
photo
think
can reveal things differently,
yeah.
like
Because
shifts it.
well, like you were saying, sometimes if you're just caught up in like the specific details of it, or it's like a larger piece, like having it like on your phone really small, you know, yeah, is a bit revealing, like, for the piece as a whole. So yeah, I'll do a lot of like progress pics and just like get up and go walk somewhere and get away from it, and then kind of decide like what I want to do to it when I get back, or what was it that I was having a hang up with, and try to solve it, before I get back to the table. Yeah, that stuff's like helpful for me, at least.
Also, I noticed that if you're doing a face, but also just any piece, having a mirror and just like I have a hand mirror on my desk and I always look at it in the mirror to
Hmm.
see pops out. That's kind of strange. Um, and that is very helpful when you're working on faces or human anatomy. They pop out real fast.
Yeah, it's humbling. It's really humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the mirror test. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. um,
Well, cool. I think this is a really good episode. Once again, you guys both are cream of the crop, amazing artists. It's really cool to hear that you guys are just so relatable. You're humble. You're always trying to learn and improve. And I think anybody else in the audience, it's like you can always get better. Wherever you're at, you're always going to get better if you just stay committed to it. And the three of us are going to keep getting better, and hopefully we can all do it together. Not to be too hoorah, but like, it's good to see other people succeeding, and it really shines the light that you can also do that too. So I do encourage you guys, please follow Brendon Flynn on Instagram. Tyler Pennington has two accounts. He has one for his tattoos, and then one Creep from 6 Feet Deep. That's illustration work. If you feel like you can follow me too. And I think there's going to be 2, maybe 3 more episodes in this vein where it's like return guests. And then who knows where we'll go from there with Heavy Art Talk. But once again, thank you guys so much. Brendon, Tyler, any last words?
I had one last question for you guys.
Yeah.
What part of your process do you dread the most? Like in an image?
Man, when it's painting, I think it's just getting started. Yeah, getting started on a painting is the hardest part. I don't know, for some reason it's way easier for me to get excited about getting going on a pen and ink drawing. When it's a painting, I'll kind of like drag my feet on the getting started part. Once I get into it, I really love painting, but I don't know what it is about like getting started with it. It just always takes me a lot. There's a lot more energy, like that I need up front to get going with a painting than it is to start a drawing for some reason.
For me, it's like I don't know, because I do enjoy the sketching and the like, just making all the forms and keeping it loose and then tightening it up. I do enjoy rendering too, but I have to be in the right state of mind because it's very. If I rush it, it starts to look like shit. You have to be very steady, you know. I don't know. I don't know if there's a part that I really dread as much as I guess anything digital I dread. So
Yeah.
I'll say that. But they all have different challenges, you know.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think it is starting a piece, especially if it's like a concept that I haven't quite settled on. If a band gives me a prompt, or if there's also personal work, I think is actually the hardest for me, because I've got so many ideas that I want to tackle, trying to pick one, and I'm way more precious about those than I would be with something else. I know that sounds terrible, but I don't know. There's some kind of weight that's attached to that because it's yours, But I feel like for me, like the hardest part about starting a project is like that first concept. So I'll like sleep on an idea, or I'll go for a hike, or I'll just sit on it, and I'll like jot stuff down, ideas, and then I'll go to my sketchbook and start sketching out ideas visually. But that part of the process, like, sometimes can be like the biggest slog. But then once I have that idea, like, it becomes, I get excited to like start the final sort of drawing for it. And hopefully the client likes it.
Yeah, I think it's amazing sometimes. Some people, they can like just spit out like 15 thumbnails. Like for me, it's like I can do like 5 thumbnails, and then it's like it's either that idea or a completely different one.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. I don't even do like too much even with that, like thumbnails and stuff. I feel like it's something that I probably should get more into, like pre-sketching and thumbnails and stuff. But yeah, the sketching stage is interesting. Because I mean, there's still like so much left to do even after that. You're like, I mean, all right, cool. Like I have like a loose idea where I want to go, but like anything can happen between now and that finish line. So, yeah, that initial sketch stage can be daunting.
Just curious.
Totally. Anything last on either of you guys' ends? Could be final questions or just final thoughts as we wrap.
Yeah, nothing really. Other than thank you for having us on here. Yeah, I feel like at least Brendon, connecting with you, kind of like face to face ish, has been a long time coming. So, I've enjoyed following you for, what time I have, and obviously like having some originals from you is like super cool. I love looking at those things. So yeah, cool to connect with you this way, and to reconnect with you, Lee. I know we talk every now and then on Instagram. So yeah, just thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks, man. This is a very cool, rare opportunity. So I hope your viewers, appreciate what you do. It's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Stay on just for a minute. Everybody else, please follow these gentlemen, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. All right. That's a wrap.